All right, welcome everybody to our monthly, I was about to say weekly, we were just talking about week stuff, monthly copywriting clinic. It's an opportunity to learn different strategies and tips about copywriting, and it's also an opportunity to bring what you're working on to get real-time feedback. Super casual meetup, and we always have a lot of fun. Rules. Simple rules: be excellent to each other, and be respectful. We get to where we're picking things apart and giving lots of fun feedback and stuff. And so we always just want to, be gentle. I'd love to get a temperature check of the room. So, we'll start off. So we have a special guest joining us this month. I'm very excited. Patrick is going to be here to talk to us about email marketing. He's got a very unique strategy for how he does email marketing. And I'm really excited to just hear you talk about it, share some of your insights, and it's going to be super fun. And really quick then too is I wanted to just kind of get a temperature check of the room. And did anyone here also bring something for us to look at today? Copywriting projects in the works, just so I can gauge our time. Everyone's just so excited to hear from Patrick.
Yeah. I mean, I could, but it's embarrassing as always, as with all copy. So yeah, I want to hear what Patrick has.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's dive into it. I mean, last month, a bunch of you guys were here. Last month, we kind of did a primer on email marketing. We just talked about the differences between promotional emails and nurture emails, and just kind of gave a nice foundation of all things email marketing. So now I'm just going to kind of hand the microphone over to Patrick for a minute, and let's talk.
Let's talk about it. Yeah, I missed last week's. So sorry about that. Promotional versus nurture. Yeah, it's an interesting conversation, because a lot of times email marketers tend to separate the types of emails they send, and these are going to be sales emails. We're going to sell something. These are going to be non-sales emails. We're not going to sell anything. We're just going to add value to the list. And my strategy of email marketing that I've learned from Ben Settle in particular, if no one is familiar, if you're not familiar with Ben Settle, go to bensettle.com, get on his email list to understand this type of email marketing. But his whole thing is, he calls it infotainment. So the idea is you're going to combine sales emails. You still want to go for a sale. You want to always be selling something, because if you're going to make money, you want to be putting offers in front of people. However, people get burned out when you're trying to sell them stuff all the time. So the way to make this work is you combine your sales content with information that's interesting, that's fun, that's exciting, that's unique, and you use engaging content, valuable content, or sometimes not valuable content that's just fun and engaging that your list likes, and you use that to segue people into a sale and connect messages that people already are interested in to whatever product you're selling. So that's kind of the big idea behind how I think about emails. I always want to approach an email thinking, what is this audience going to be interested in? What are they going to be excited about when I say this to them? And I'll say right away too, the main principle that I'm always using with all of my emails is curiosity. Every curiosity is the #1 principle behind great email marketing, in my opinion. So every subject line, every opening line of the email, everything should be enhancing that curiosity factor and getting people more interested in what's the next thing you're going to say. That's connected to the last thing that you have just said, right? And always pushing people further down that line. So yeah, that's a little overview of kind of how I approach email marketing, and we can get into more from there. But I'll stop there, and go ahead, Kara.
No, this is great, and I think it's very perfect. And how even I was saying, the last month's clinic, where we were talking about these differentiators. Differences, that's the word, differences between the promotional and the nurture. And I love how you're putting that all together and seeing how you can achieve both at once. I'm curious to hear for you, because we have our own forms of doing audience research. I'm curious about your process and how you get to know what your audience is interested in.
Yeah, that's a good question. So a big part of that is going to be, well, one, where people come in from. So, you know, everyone here, I'm sure, is familiar with lead magnets. And so those lead magnets are going to give you, you know, you're starting right away with an idea of who you want on your list. And those lead magnets are going to attract a certain type of person. So if you're going to attract people that are into survivalism, you're going to have a lead magnet that's about homesteading or tools of survival or prepping. And so that already gives you an idea of where this person is when they come onto the list. So to me, that's always like foundational. Before they're even on the list, you have to have an idea of who you're going after and to attract that type of person. And usually that comes down to, you know, what kind of person is going to be a good fit for whatever you are selling. Surveys can be very helpful. And one thing that I've done in the past on a welcome email, it'll be, the welcome email will say, you know, thanks for signing up for whatever, and glad you're here, and this is what we're all about. And at the end of the email, it'll have a question of like, what's the number one problem that you're dealing with? You know, what's the number one thing that you're going through that we can help you overcome? Something along those lines, to start getting a little engagement, start getting an idea of who's on your list, because it's not always clear and it's not always easy to get those insights into those people on the list. I know, for example, on John Bush's Live Free Academy list, there's a lot of older people. It skews older, and for one reason or another, it skews more female, older female, or older couples. And this has come out just from having people respond to emails. I'll say this too. This is another reason why it's good to promote, to combine content with promotion. People will tend to write back to you in certain emails when it really affects them. I know this has happened already with certain autonomy emails that I've sent. People write back, be like, oh, I totally relate to that, or that was stupid and I disagree with you, which is all good. That's always good feedback to get that from people. But that you start to hear from the audience too, hear back from them to better understand, you know, who they are. But yeah, I think it's a challenge. It's a challenge to really understand those, you know, who exactly is on your list, what their demographics are. So it's important to go back to the lead magnets. It's important to understand that and who that's already attracting. Surveys can sometimes help too. So sending just a straight survey to the list. Hey, if you guys could help me out, you know, I want to create better content for you. So if you could take this quick survey, and, you know, you could have some kind of bait for them too, of like, not bait, like some kind of prize, you know, some kind of gift of, hey, take this survey, I'll give you this little course or this extra training or something. And that survey can go into, who are you? Where you come from? You know, how old are you? Like that kind of stuff you can do. But to me, this is one of the things I'm still working through, is this challenge of getting deeper insights into who's already on the list, especially when I've come onto a project like working with Autonomy or working with John Bush or anyone else. I've already come into a list. There's already a bunch of people there. So I don't know all of who's already there. But with this type of email marketing, I'll get into why I like to send daily emails, you know, sending multiple emails throughout the week. This allows me to test different messages and different angles that can work for different demographics of people. So if I don't always know exactly who's on the list, I at least can try different angles that would work for different demographics, for different types of people. And depending on what is performing better, then I'll get a better understanding of, well, what people are really interested in on the email list.
Yeah. And, you know, I'm thinking in my head about how, you know, and especially when I first started learning about email marketing, and there was always pushing the automated campaigns and the long drip sequences. But what I've been seeing is that they lack relevance. And this is what I've been seeing is really strong with your strategy, is like, as you're, you know, writing, and I mean, for Autonomy, for example, you're writing 3 emails a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And these, I mean, you might do a little bit of planning ahead of time, but they're very relevant and in the moment. And that's something I'm really enjoying about them.
Yeah, I think the one of the things I love doing is just riffing on news and pop culture, things that are happening. What's the common adage for copywriting? Enter the conversation that's already going on in their head. We know people, especially in this audience, people that are already attracted to autonomy. Everyone here knows, like, you're into the truth, you're into understanding reality, what's actually happening in the world. You're already interested in being an autodidactic person. So if we start with that information, then I can deduce, well, what are you probably paying attention to? Because we're probably paying attention to the same news sources. Most likely it's going to be more independent news sources, right? I doubt most people on the autonomy list are getting their info from CNN or Fox News. It's probably going to be other sources, and I'm looking at those sources too. And so what's happening in the world is great content because people are already thinking about that. And so what you want to do, and this is all right, so this is a key for email marketing, I think for good email marketing, is you want to have a personality and a point of view and a perspective that's unique to you. So, and this is truer today than ever before. No one wants to hear from a brand. They want to hear from a person, right? Authenticity is key. So I can talk about a subject, riff on the news, and I can give my perspective on it, my worldview, and people on the email list start to look forward to, well, what does Patrick have to say about that? Someone else might be giving their opinion elsewhere too, and they might be interested in that. But if they already like something I've said before, they're going to want to tune in to what I say next and what I say about this topic. So if there's something going on, they might want autonomy or me to comment on this thing happening in the world, and that's going to be interesting and exciting. And that's the whole point. This is something Ben Settle taught me. The whole idea of these emails should be it's kind of escapism, right? There's an entertainment value to email marketing, and that should be there, because most email marketing is very dull and it's boring and it's repetitive and it's super just straight line salesy. Here's an offer, this is the thing. And when you comment on current events and news and things, well, now that's interesting, and it's inherently interesting. People are inherently interested in that topic. But when you're saying, I have a unique take on this, and I'm going to give that to you and then help you think differently or help you think better about what's happening, that's going to draw people in, especially like they've already heard something from you. They want to hear more from you. So I think it's one of those things that just inherently, it just gets people interested in hearing more. It's like listening to a talk radio show. Like, you want to hear those hosts over and over again talk about whatever's going on. You already know something's going on. You like those hosts. You want to hear what they have to say.
Yeah, and I've seen what I really liked when you got onboarded with Autonomy and started doing the emails is that there was really this great buildup, and you introduced yourself as writing these emails, as opposed to writing as if you're writing as Richard Grove or writing as someone else. Now, I imagine is that different for some of your other clients, though, that you're writing as them?
Yes. I have the benefit working with John Bush. I write under his name, but I have the benefit of, like, I'm on the same wavelength as him in terms of, like, we have a similar perspective on the world and similar beliefs about how the world works and what we can do to improve ourselves and improve the world. And I'm interested in the things that he's selling. So it allows me to better step into that role. But yes, there's definitely times where I like to be more antagonistic, and I like to say mean things about evil people in the world, but John Bush doesn't do that. And so sometimes I've slipped in comments about Tony Fauci or something that were, that were less than nice. And people would write back and be like, why would you use such language? And I get it, it's a bad guy, but you don't have to be mean or whatever. And John Bush is like, that's actually not my style, so let's not do that. And that's totally fine. So there are things I have to make sure that it's in a certain style. John Bush, he'll also tell me stories, and I get to listen to his stories about his kids or something, and then I can turn those into a better story than he could write in an email. And so you do have to change that for the personality. But that's the thing, is people love John Bush, and he's already out there. He's a public figure. He's got a YouTube and podcast and all that stuff. And so people would know him, know, like, and trust him. And when I came on working with him, it was just another way to get more of his personality into his brand. And that's the beauty too of this type of email marketing. He's he has a lot to say about a lot of stuff. And so by listening to him and knowing that, like, I'm on a similar wavelength with him, I can kind of step into that role. And so I'll come up with ideas, but he'll make sure, like, I change this or that, or, that we'll always have that type of back and forth. And that's essential when working with a client like that. It's important to know their perspective. I actually ran into something here. Me and Josh had a back and forth on autonomy emails, because I wrote an email that was really railing against it was either the CDC or it was something about the UN, and it was really hardcore. And Josh made the point of, there's a lot of people on the autonomy email list who are not they're not into the conspiracy realist world. They're not all Grand Theft World listeners, right? They don't all have that worldview. We're attracting a group of people who are interested in personal development and autodidacticism and personal growth and entrepreneurialism. Those people are going to be interested in those subjects. That's who we want on the autonomy list. That's who we want in autonomy. And eventually, hopefully, they'll turn towards looking at more real history and the real nature of politics and the global elite and whatever else, right? But they're not totally there yet. So we don't want to go too hard on that stuff, because we don't need to right now, right? So that's not totally the right angle. And so me and Josh had a back and forth, and that's totally fine. And so I can change up how I approach certain subjects. And he said, we can drop little truth bombs, but we don't have to go hardcore, because it's not that type of list, not that type of people necessarily, not that type of market. And so like we talked about just a minute ago, trying to figure out who we are actually talking to, what's happening, who this market is, who this audience is. It's important to recognize where they're at now and how to get them to where we want them to be without totally repelling them. But on that note, I will say it is important to be this is why it's important to have a unique perspective and a point of view, because repelling people you don't want is also a key part of marketing, just as much as attracting people you do want in your fold. So pushing people, being a little antagonistic, pushing some hot buttons, or slaughtering some sacred cows, that can go a long way in attracting the type of customer that you want to. So
I was going to bring up the email that you sent out this week, which was bold and
just yesterday
about you are what, Agnieszka messaged me. She said, "Did you write this?" And she's like, "This is great." And I said, "No, that is all Patrick."
Okay.
And that had a really bold subject line, and it was antagonistic, a little combative about you are what's wrong with the world, and speak to everyone about the strategy behind that and why that's a benefit.
Yeah. Okay. So this is one of those things you should not do this often, but every once in a while, it's great to subvert expectations and to make it seem as if you're going one way, but you actually go another. Just like in comedy, like you're setting up a joke and then you take a left turn. This is the same type of idea. And this is going to, it gets people so interested, like, what? There's no way that he means that I'm a bad person. I'm making the world a bad place. I have to open this. So the first part of the strategy is that it just gets, again, what I was saying earlier, like curiosity is the king of email marketing. Always going for more curiosity. So this gets people super curious, but it also gets people a little on edge. And when people are on edge, you've interrupted those thought patterns, right? You've interrupted their day, and now they have to take a second to understand what's going on. Now they're really paying attention to what you have to say, because you said something that they never expected to hear or to see in their inbox. And this is the other thing. This is how you beat the noise. Again, you don't want to do this all the time, because then it's easy to catch on to now it's just a gimmick. right? But when you use it sparingly,
but it does help.
yeah,
it helps getting rid of the people, because we have, if somebody's not really interested or whatever, we only have 90 days, but if they don't check their email, right? But this way you just keep it on them so they don't lose interest so much. Then of course, now that I said that, I think if they don't check their email, we have to automatically get rid of them.
Yeah, but you're right, Agnieszka, you're right. That idea of not losing interest, and this is the whole point, is like, you don't want it dull and boring, repetitive, like that kills sales, no one cares. And that's when you just start ending up in the promotions folder and no one checks anymore. When you put out messages like this, it forces people to pay attention to you, because now you're unpredictable. And when you're unpredictable, people they want to come back to see what you're going to say next, because they can't predict what you're going to say. Being predictable is being boring. And so with these types of messages, it's good to poke people. So, and the point of this too, sometimes I like to go for some kind of aha moment for people to be like, that's what he was saying. Oh, now I get it. And now there's like, it creates a better, I think, connection, in your neurons. Like there's like where you thought it was one thing, now you understand what I was really trying to say, and now you're like, yeah, I guess that's a good point. And like I was hoping that people would have that moment of like, you're right, like I do need to step up because the world needs me, and it'd be worse off without me being there for the world and like bringing my gifts. And like, it has a very positive message, but it starts super negative, and because the negative is like a train wreck or like a gross image, it pulls people, and you can't help but you want to look at it, you want to understand it, because you can't quite make sense of it. And so that's like, it creates this disconnect that you have to figure it out, right? It's like it's an open loop that you have to close. You have to figure out what the heck is going on here.
Or not, and they reply with something nasty.
Yeah.
Hey, Joshua.
Oh, that's good. That email. I told Kara.
Yeah.
I didn't even see any replies, and I told Kara, looking nice. And anybody that it cuts out is never going to be in autonomy, because even if they were to buy, the people who were offended by that email, even if they were to buy autonomy, they'd be offended by the rest of us within a second.
Right.
Just by our very.
And I showed that to Rich, and he said, these people don't have an offer, and that's their problem, and that's why they're just going to stay their problem, because all they're doing is getting back to us with a FU, which shows that they don't have the attention span, they don't have, the putting forth the effort to see how you were turning that around halfway down the email, and and they didn't click unsubscribe. They took the effort to say something nasty back,
but they didn't unsubscribe.
Yeah,
exactly. Because now they're like, well, what the heck is this guy going to say next that I can get mad about? And so like it keeps people in, and hopefully some of those people will come around. But you're right. There's a lot of people.
They reply. That's also like points for us in deliverability. So anytime anybody replies, doesn't matter what they write, even if they write "you're an idiot," it still brings you up in searches and stuff.
Okay. Yes.
There was a 0.01 unsubscribe.
Yeah.
On 9,000 emails. So nothing.
As per
so nothing.
You're supposed that's how much you're supposed to have unsubscribed. 0.01. Clinical.
That's a good point, Agnieszka, that you brought up too about email deliverability, getting responses. This is why I brought up like with the welcome email. If you just ask a question at the end of a welcome email, just right away you get people, they're responding. It's good for market research, but it's also really good for email deliverability. And doing emails like this, where you have a certain point that's interesting, that's different, or that might make I want people to feel something. I want them to be hot or cold. We don't want them to be lukewarm. We don't want them to just like pass over us. We want them to either really like this, hate it. That's where we want people to be, because that is attracting, repelling. And we did get some people responded and like really positively and like, hey, you're right. Or how can I get back involved? There was one guy who was like, how can I get back involved with autonomy? I was here for season 6. Now I want to get back involved. So these are even just getting re-engagement from existing students is a net benefit.
You know, and that's actually something that's also what I've loved is that you were able to do this in such an inclusive way, that this isn't just for non-autonomy students. Like this is, all of us can benefit from your emails. And we have, since you started doing these, we've had several people that wanted to re-engage with the course after receiving your emails.
Yeah, I'm super glad to hear that, because it's like, this is why having a regular communication, this is something when I talked to Josh about trying to get these newsletters going, my whole thing was like, yeah, there's, he told me that we have this list of people, there's a ton of people that are here, and we're not, there's not a lot of, like, we've already followed up with them, we've already talked to them, they've gone through the automations, and now they're just sitting there. What do we do now? And this is where, if you have a personality and a perspective, and you can just talk about things that are going to be interesting to those people, and then you can segue that into the product, well, that's now going to keep this conversation about autonomy in their minds alive. And it's going to keep them thinking, right, autonomy. Oh, autonomy. That's right. Autonomy's here. I should look back at autonomy. Maybe I should get back involved in autonomy. And then, of course, what I also want to keep doing is like spelling out the benefits of autonomy, and, the features and benefits of what's going on. And that especially comes like now when the season's about to start, and we want to talk more about what you're actually getting here in autonomy, what you can gain from it, the community, the courses, the extra courses. Like that's all the stuff we want to keep talking about now. But instead of just saying, hey, autonomy season 8 is starting, here's all the benefits, it's it's you're worse off. The world is worse off because of you. What the hell does that mean? Oh, the world is better because I could develop my skills. How could I develop my skills? Through autonomy. Now I see how I could get back involved in autonomy. Yeah. I don't know. I think I might have lost my train of thought there, but yeah.
No, it was hilarious when I read your email. My first reaction, like the subconscious, because I observed the subconscious reaction because, it's my job. But anyway, my first subconscious reaction was, I'm so far ahead of you. I already started my video series 2 weeks ago. So it's like, oh no, you can't get me. I'm already. But then I'm like, I just fell into his trap. Like,
yeah.
like I responded, like my brain responded exactly how maybe it wasn't the response from the people who haven't been doing stuff, but I did. It psychologically, you got me.
Right.
So
right. Well, I love hearing that. Man, that's so awesome.
But I was thinking while you were talking about something, but in autonomy, I ran into these crazy, weird people that don't like stick around autonomy. And after a season, they just leave because they're like, okay, I got it and whatever. And it never made sense to me. And even though, maybe they don't directly contribute to finances, but I think that if we were to get them back, there would be other people who would join, and it would benefit. But maybe we should do like a series for the people who have left, because I just don't get it. Every time there's a new season, I'm having a new project. It's reminding me of new rules, new things that I need to remember, as I'm working on my new this year's whatever thing, there's new thoughts and new ideas that it feeds in when I listen to the classes and when I interact with the students. And I just don't get, like Eric said, he unsubscribed from everything and left Discord because he's got better things to do with his life. And then he got like a 9 to 5.
Yeah. And people go their different ways there. What you just said, Agnieszka, like what you just talked about there, that's an email right there of just like thinking about how to get back involved, why you should stay involved in this thing that you once were interested in, that you once were a part of, you were on a track towards a certain destination, but you got off early. You could stay on, and there's a few more stops you could get to that could really elevate your life. Maybe I don't know what that guy wanted, but yeah.
I think that they think of it as this buffet where they have to eat a certain, like I have to eat a half a kilo of food every time I walk up to this buffet. And I don't eat a half a kilo, but I'm not really hungry and I can't eat, but I don't think about it that way. I just stop by and grab, have a few pieces whenever.
I'm really sensitive to this topic just because of my heart and soul being put into this. And there's multiple avenue or
whatever I want to, and then I go back and I still have my projects, right?
Yeah, there's multiple personas that I think, come and get that key component that they need, and then they're back out into building their business and building their funnels, and that's where we have drop off. But it's good to let them know, like with this season in the mastermind, that's going to be such a powerful tool for people that know how to use it. And then there's the people that are intimidated. And there's so much value here that they have, that once they quit on themselves, getting that nudge to like be able to come back and give it another try can be really intimidating. Seeing all this momentum around you and all these resources left untapped. And then there's the average business owner that's fucking busy trying, they reach success, and then the work really starts. And so they don't really have time for autonomy, at least not in the 15 hours a week and like full dedication. But some people just show up in a Q&A on Sundays because it's fun. You get to hear, inspirational stories from others and something that's relatable. So they know that they can, like, on a micro scale, pop in and just get that, refreshed sense of community that other people are working on this journey with me. And that sense of like, you have to fully commit every season shouldn't be there. You should be able to come back and grab what you want that's usable in where you're at in life.
Yeah.
I would just throw out.
Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
I was just going to say, the kind of idea of kind of being in the alumni, that like every year that, university has a homecoming week, where you get that chance to kind of come back, see what's going on in the university, see what new things are going, what new buildings have been built, new professors and new courses. I think, I do see we've got a wide range of people, and I do feel like, we're doing a lot of things. So like every time people come back, they're like, wow, look at this. Oh, we got these new things. And I mean, Daryl's course, for example, I didn't get to go for the first go round, but man, I am so glad I went for the second go round, because then it's like, this is some good stuff, and I can just see that as we're getting those kind of people and we're growing those kind of things. Ron's course, I mean, there is becoming more and more things in autonomy, and it's becoming more than just what it started out as. There's just so many things. It's going in so many directions.
And I needed a name, Mike. So, and I'm actually having an alumni shirt being sent to me from an entrepreneur that is pitching us on switching from Teespring. But the meet and greet that first night is essentially the alumni of the core group, and just hearing from graduates all that first night. And then Sundays, typically when we have like the recent new students from that season come on and show some courage and get on screen and share a bit about how they like their.
Why don't we dance party on Saturday night? That would make it like a whole week.
At the beginning of the season?
Yeah, like the meet and greet on Friday, because we always yak till 2 o'clock in the morning, so there's no time for then. But then on Saturday we can have like a dance party, and then on Sunday we can have the Q&A and make it a whole weekend. I wanted to add something to what we were talking about with the thing, going back to that idea of it's like a buffet and people over focus on one thing or another. That's actually what I've been hearing from people when they leave, and I'm like, well, why did you leave? Well, what the heck? Why aren't you on Discord? Where the fuck did you go, right? And they're like, dude, I really don't like poached figs. And I'm thinking, but it's a buffet. There's like 50 dishes. What are you talking about? Yeah, but those poached figs, I really didn't enjoy them. And it's just like, what are you talking about? Like, don't eat the poached figs, okay? Just go somewhere else. There's 100 rooms and 100 different things to do. But that's
if it's not there, build it.
Well, and that's what I've done.
Yeah. If there's a dish not at the buffet, give us the recipe or get in the kitchen.
Demand it, question for it. I don't know, do something, but don't complain that there's only poached figs when there's a buffet of 50 different things.
Man, I can see Patrick's brain working with this
Autonomy
discussion
being
right
a
now.
buffet is great. Yeah, that's a great
why I'm
angle.
thinking his brain. I saw his brain going, and then I'm like, oh, I have other sparks in my brain.
Don't complain about the what did you say?
Honestly,
Don't complain
when
about
Eric
the fish.
told me that, and I know Eric is my ex-boyfriend, so that doesn't help. And I'm always grateful for him bringing me to autonomy. But when he said he left because it was just not for him, I was really annoyed with him. I'm thinking, you're losing out. Like, how is your 9 to 5 going to serve you and your kid now that he has a kid when you can't even figure out the everything? Autonomy has everything.
There's a whole lot of accountability in autonomy, and that's not a comfortable
Saying he was
spotlight
allergic.
to be in.
Yeah, but I'm not
I
always.
know people tend to get really discouraged when, start going hard in autonomy, and then something in life happens where it just kind of derails them a little bit, and then it's hard for them to get back on. And so they'll just stop. Oh, maybe next season. I think that's a big challenge that comes up.
I was kind of invisible for 6 to 8 months, but then Joshua threw me a birthday party and then I had to come back. So it just happened that the party was on my birthday and Shannon gave me an invite, like personal twice invite. So I went and it was awesome. Thank you, Joshua.
Michael.
I would just say that, and what Joshua mentioned, when you put your heart into something and it doesn't come out the way that you think it should, or people don't see it the way that you think they should, that's kind of hard to deal with. And, to a large degree, a lot of the people in our community are people that are, they're not necessarily great at social interaction and stuff like that. And that's one of those areas that, you got to have that trial and error thing. And it's certainly something that's a part of what is autonomy. But, for those of us that have been conditioned in that for a long time, it's a hard habit to break. And I do feel like a lot of people, and especially in the circumstances that we have today, have difficulty with, that, like, if things don't go right, and it's especially close to your heart, it's hard to deal with that kind of thing. And we just got to be real gentle. I think that's my point.
Yeah.
Okay, just to read Patrick, 2 more sentences. So I know that I've taken a lot of education when it comes to marketing and sales and stuff, but whenever I come back to autonomy, what these guys do is they do a lot of research, right? So every year they have the totally up-to-date stuff. And even though I'm into the totally up-to-date stuff and I check it, I always find it very refreshing and comforting that I'm reminded of all the rules and everything that I need to remember for my very job and for whatever my projects and for the new projects and for the old projects. And I'm reminded of all the rules every season, and that keeps me fresh and knowledgeable. And it's easier to absorb the new information when the old information is always refreshed like that.
Yeah, it's easier to build on existing knowledge than learning something new. Yeah.
Well, and if your existing knowledge, like back to cooking, like every year for Christmas, you make those dumplings that grandma used to make, and you make them the same way every year, right? So then when you're studying different kinds of dumplings, it's easier to learn because your knowledge of these specific dumplings is easy, is fresh, right? But autonomy not only gives you the old dumplings, but they also give you the new dumpling recipe as well every year, every season. And I'm not saying you should use the dumpling example, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I get it.
Or the poached fish.
I just want to keep hearing more metaphors from you, Agnieszka.
Really big metaphors.
Everything is food. I'm getting so hungry. I just had lunch and I'm still getting hungry now.
Good seeing you guys. I'm dipping out. Bye.
All right,
No,
bye,
don't
Joshua.
Yeah.
I'm curious, Patrick. I mentioned a little bit earlier talking about like the automatic campaigns, with the exception of course, when someone downloads a lead magnet, standard practice, of course, to have an automatic welcome email. Beyond that, do you still employ like drip campaigns?
Yes, drip campaigns are still super important because if you, especially if you already have an existing product that's going to be tied to the lead magnet, that's related to the lead magnet. And I mean, we do a lot of stuff with John Bush for sure for Live Free Academy, where a lead magnet will be about something like we did, like he does a lot of free summits. So it'd be like, oh, this is Free the Children Summit, all about like why public school is awful. And then people get into that and be like, wow, yeah, public school is bad. Look at all these people who, and what this is all about. What's the solution? Well, homeschool could be the solution and should be. And then those people will get an email drip campaign that's about the different benefits of homeschool, the different outcomes of homeschooled children. It could reiterate why public school is dangerous for children. It kind of leads people through that process. We've done it with homesteading too, of like, here's a simple lead magnet about like, it's kind of like food to prep. And then you kind of take those people that are already into prepping and then say, okay, now these are other ways that you could start growing food, and why you should start growing food and buying other things in bulk, and how to manage your money so you have a better budget for homesteading and these types of things. So it's like, if you have a product that is related to that lead magnet, you can definitely get them into your email system, and then start sending emails that act as a bridge between that lead magnet and like buying a product that does something much bigger that's related to this small thing. Because a lead magnet should always be something very targeted, very specific, that it solves a very specific problem and is a small, simple problem. People can instantly understand that, and they'll want to get that thing, they'll want to get that little thing solved or get that piece of knowledge. And then you start opening them up through the email automation, thinking bigger, thinking about the bigger picture of survivalism and what's going on in the world, and giving them other statistics about what's happening, other news about what's going on, and how they can prep and survive better using these other things that they didn't think about before, but we know they're interested in because they got that lead magnet, and we have a product that we're going to sell them that has all of this other stuff that we're talking about through the email automation. So it's going to be the same idea of good content, interesting content, combined with the promotion that's promoting, this end product. We're going to talk about different things that they're interested in, different things that are related to it on the way. And some people might get into homesteading because they already live on a piece of property and they kind of want to know what to do with it now. Other people are going to be in an apartment and they don't really know where to start. They don't even think they can homestead, and we can show them how that it can be done. And this thing over here is going to give them strategies for that particular situation. This is another thing about email, again, where you can hit different angles, and especially through an email automation, you already know they're interested in this little topic. Well, now you can talk about other things that are related and keep talking about a variety of things throughout this email automation that leads up to a product. So I think they're extremely powerful, and should always be used if you can. Yeah.
Awesome. And so then now I'm curious too. And by the way, I don't need to be the only one asking questions. I just keep getting super curious about stuff. But anybody else in the room, you are totally welcome to unmute, as this is a pretty free-flowing discussion. So I just wanted to put that out there. So now I'm curious, for Autonomy's list, you've been able to make it so that you're able to use one email to speak to the entire list. So right. For a different client that like John Bush, for example, and there's multiple avenues of people coming in with different lead magnets, do you have to write separate emails for those lists, or are you still able to speak to like the whole list all at once?
Yes, this is well, that's a great question, and this is an interesting challenge we're starting to see now, because John has started partnering with more people. He's got a lot of events going on. Even in the past couple of weeks, we've been sending like 2 emails a day to the whole list, all of the people on the list. And now, of course, naturally, unsubscribes are going to tick up when you start sending more things, but not as much as you would expect. And as long as you're constantly bringing people in, refreshing that list, that's not much of a big deal. And you're going to always have churn. And like I said, churn, like, people unsubscribing is not a bad thing necessarily if you're doing email, if you're doing email right. If you're doing it in a way that's still true to your brand and still giving people a great journey being on your email list. But anyway, so there's people on the list that are way more interested in buying land and like building intentional communities out in the country. And they're way more interested in that than homeschooling. I brought up the homeschooling offer we did earlier. that offer did not perform as well as we hoped. And this is a thing where no amount of copywriting, I'm not claiming I'm the greatest copywriter. I'm sure there's other copywriters that could have done even better with that material, but there's really no amount of copywriting that can overcome a mismatch between the offer and the market. So if you have a bunch of people and that are on your list that you assume might be interested in this, and you start marketing it and talking about it, and they're not buying, more than likely it's the offer that's not that great, or that's not, it's either not good or it's not a good fit for this market. And so, like I said earlier, we're realizing that the market is skewing older, probably don't have kids, and or it's a bunch of young people that also don't have kids either, or kids are already gone. So that was one of those. That was a harder lesson to learn, because we're marketing to the whole group. Like I said, he's got people that have come in. He does his biggest event is the Exit and Build Summit. This is all about moving to the country, buying land, doing the homesteading thing out there, creating intentional community, all that stuff. And a lot of those people don't have kids. We assumed there was going to be a good portion of people that, and there were. I mean, we still, it was still successful to a degree, but not nearly as big of a promotion as other things have been. And this is where, and then we decided, like, all right, there has to come a point where you have to stop talking about that thing, because clearly this list is not that interested. So we know we're not going to really double down on homeschooling anymore. We could double down on anything regarding homesteading or that type of thing. We know that, like, anything about that kind of stuff, people are going to be interested in. It's also very relevant right now with what's going on in the world, food shortages and scarcity, inflation, everyone's thinking about that. So those are offers, those are products that people are way more interested in right now. And that's always something to pay attention to. But to get back to this idea of whether we separate messages to different aspects of the list, not necessarily, not now, because we don't, with the offers that we have going on, we want everyone to be exposed to them. When we promote an affiliate offer, right, an offer from someone else, we want most of the list to get to see that offer and get the chance to buy from it. And we're trying now, actually, we're trying this thing now where as John Bush, I'm trying to say, like, hey, listen, I want to empower you as much as possible. I don't show you stuff just to show them to you, or, promote things just to promote them. I believe in these things. I believe they can truly help you. That's why I'm going to show you these offers. And that's why we're going to put these things in front of you. And, like, we want the audience to understand more that we're going to be talking about a lot of stuff. We're going to be promoting things, a lot of things. But we're trying to do this in your best interest, because first of all, not everyone's going to be interested in every offer we do, but it would, we think it would be a disservice not to put a good offer in front of everyone that we have, because even if someone was super into homeschooling, that's what they're here for, they might also be into gardening and homesteading too. They might also want to get involved in cryptocurrency or their kids or something, right? And so we do want to market those products to everyone, but we know that not everyone's gonna buy, and different offers are going to do better or worse depending on the offer and the market and the copy, for sure, and just what's going on in the world. So yeah, but it's definitely a challenge, and there is some people, Russell Brunson of .com Secrets, and he's got an event called Funnel Hacking Live. Russell Brunson is a very well-known marketer, and his idea is he brings people in through a lead magnet, will give them an automation to an offer, and then lead up to some paid product. And then he will shift that same group of people to another automation and get them to going on another train to a different product, and then shift them again to another automation, and then let them chill out on the main list. So that's a strategy we're going to try and explore as well. I think the way to make that work is, again, like, if they come in through a homesteading thing, we're going to want to show them only offers kind of related to that. If we're going to take them on a train, like an automation train, and drop them at these different stations, it should be related to the initial thing they signed up for. But eventually they're going to land on just the regular list where they get these regular daily broadcasts about whatever the main thing is we're promoting now.
So when people are going through, like they're just entering onto the list and they're going through their automation, they're not getting the other broadcast emails that are going out yet?
Usually not. Usually not, because we don't want to scare people away right away with like too many emails, too much, right? That could be overkill. And especially if they came in on one subject, they're really interested in that thing. And if we're leading them towards a product we want them to buy, we don't want to steal their focus too much. This is a challenge this is a challenge we've just been dealing with, because we have competing offers that we're trying to promote at the exact same time. And so now we're asking people to buy two different things, and we're sending emails about two different things at the exact same time. And to be honest, I don't like it very much, because I think there's this idea, it steals attention away from one or the other, and you want them to stay focused. And people, there's a million and one things to distract you these days. So especially if it's a new lead, a new subscriber, I do not want to distract them with anything other than what we want them to see right now, that what we know they're interested in. They were interested in this lead magnet. Now we can lead them to a paid product that's related to that lead magnet. I want them to stay on that train, and if they and hopefully buy that product, right? And I don't need to show them anything else right now. We already have a list of people to sell to. These new leads, we're trying to maximize ROI. Again, not just because trying to extract as much money from people. We're in the business of sales because we're trying to sell things that are good for people, that people already expressed interest in wanting to buy, right? And so we should try to hold their attention and do our best to sell that thing that they're already interested in, and make sure that they really understand fully why this is good for them and what they're going to get out of it, and help them make the best decision possible by keeping their focus, on that thing.
Mm-hmm. So how many, when you first onboarded you and we were talking about sending the 3 emails a week, my initial reaction was thinking that was too many emails. So I'm wondering, how many emails is too many emails, and how do you kind of find that sweet spot?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. I mean, Ben Settle would tell you, 1 email every single day. That's what he does, at least. But he also, because he has a brand that's about this kind of thing, daily email marketing, right, he sends a million emails. Other people, I see other people do. There's another email marketer for everyone here. He's crazy new on the scene, but he's doing crazy cool creative stuff. His name is Daniel Throssell, Throssell. Funny, kooky Australian guy. And he really is doing unique stuff. And so that's a guy that's a totally just a fish out of the water kind of character. And it's definitely not everyone's cup of tea. And he likes that, because people that are into him are really into him. Again, that goes back to just having a good personality. But what were we? So yeah, how many is too many? I would say, if you're sending boring emails, you're sending too many emails, because they're boring, because they stink. Seriously, there's really not necessarily too many. I would say this: when you have a product that has a deadline, there's real urgency. That's when you can really crank up emails, especially as you're nearing that deadline. If you have 4 or 5 days left of a promotion for a product that and this is the big launch party for this product, you want to send quite a bit of emails, within reason, and I should say within a capacity that your list can handle. Mm-hmm. And the list should already be there. That's why with autonomy, I would have, I probably even suggested 5 emails a week, but I know that's the list is already not used to 1 email a week. So if you just start with 5, that could be way too many, and that would immediately push people away who many of whom might actually be really good fits for autonomy, and we don't want to drive them away right away. That's why the way we started it, it's important to give expectations right up front. A lot of these aggressive email marketers will force people to tick a box before they opt in that says, I agree to receive daily, right? Bolded, underlined, daily emails. And then in the welcome email reiterating, you're going to get daily emails from me. Every single day, you're probably going to get at least one email from me. So it's not necessarily a question of how much is too much. It's a question of how much can your list handle? How much are they already expecting to hear from you? How much have you already been sending? And with this kind of approach, you can start, if they're like this is an autonomy was an existing list of people not used to a lot of emails. So you want to start with a relative number that I think they can handle, that they can expect every week. Now they have an expectation. Okay, 3 a week. I can do 3 a week. I know that I'm going to get these emails from Autonomy Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I agree to that. And so you kind of want to get that agreement from them and that expectation solidified, so they know what to look forward to. People like consistency. It's important to be consistent. But the reason why daily emails are so important and why certain email marketers are so put such a heavy emphasis on it is because you're showing up more often in their inbox, more than almost anybody else, more than most other people, more than most other brands. And when you have a personality and a perspective that people really like and enjoy and look forward to hearing from, when they see you pop up in their email box more than anyone else, and you have a certain product, and if they're on a few different email lists, all selling a similar type of product, they're gonna think about you first because you're the one that keeps showing up with something interesting to say. And it's the same idea of like, you just want, when you have something interesting to say, people are listening. And so then when you have something to offer, they're going to listen to what you have to offer there. And they're going to remember that you made them feel these things before. You made these great points in other emails before. You've been here over and over and over again. And daily emails naturally build authority. They build that kind of that presence that you just can't beat. And it makes you look like more of an expert. Even if you're a newbie, if you're the one sending emails and you're saying something about your topic of expertise on a regular basis, you're going to seem more of an expert than someone who only emails once a week or once a month, or something like that. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it's very important to be emailing just just to keep that connection with the audience, to stay top of mind with them. Like we were talking about earlier with people who are like, oh yeah, autonomy, I forgot about autonomy, or I've walked away from autonomy. Now I'm back interested in autonomy. That was an interesting email. Oh, now I've checked out that new sales page. Wow, I forgot how great this was. I want to come back into it. Same idea of just, it gets people, it keeps the thing you want them to be thinking about there on top of their mind, again, because we have so many things to be distracted about. So when you're showing up on a regular basis and they look forward to that, it's going to be easy for them to come back in, or to buy the thing you're trying to sell, because you're there.
I got a question for you, Patrick.
Yeah, sure, Mike.
And it kind of goes along the lines of what you were talking about, when you're saying like John Bush and going into collaboration with other people. And I certainly think that, autonomy and our audience and kind of in this circumstance, we are, we're entrepreneurs, and we're certainly
Right.
trying to encourage people to be entrepreneurs. And so like knowing your audience and being able to like talk about your audience kind of gives all of the entrepreneurs here that opportunity to like, oh, is that what they need? Oh, I've got this, those kind of things, having that discussion about who is the audience that we're serving, and what is excellence in regard to what it is that they're looking for, and then being able to either invite other people into our community that provide that excellence, or just invite our, the people that are within our community, the ability to kind of provide that excellence, So what do you think about being able to communicate more clearly who our audience is, what their needs are, and then how are we serving them as entrepreneurs?
From the perspective of talking to people who are interested in autonomy, or you mean like you, Mike, if you have your business and how to better speak to your market?
Well, maybe it's this just having this conversation on a regular basis where we're talking about like what is the audience, and then how is that audience being served, and how do we communicate better the things that that they need and what we're providing.
Yeah. So I think this is why it's think about what you're interested in reading on a regular basis, what you look at, what grabs your attention. The first goal of in the context of email marketing, the first goal is to get their attention first and foremost, and then start talking to them about the thing that they want to hear about, that they're interested in, and then use that as a wedge to open the door to show them the other thing, the thing that you have to offer. And so yeah, when it comes to if you're talking to your audience, think through, I mean, you might be part of your audience. So like that's where I always start. I'm a part of the autonomy audience. I'm a part of John. If I wasn't working for John Bush, I would already be listening to John Bush's stuff. I would be reading his emails because I'm interested in what he's up to. So I think starting from yourself and thinking, well, what are you interested in? What do you find interesting and fascinating? What are historical tidbits? What are news pieces? What are things that you're thinking about and you're looking at that grab your attention? And then how can you talk about those things to your people, your audience, your market for your products? Talk about those things to them. Now you're having a conversation. It's a one-to-many conversation through email, but you're entering a conversation that they're probably interested in, and you're able to use that to bring them down into your products and services, and start showing them that what they're interested in, you're interested in too. You have a perspective, and what they're dealing with, their problems, you understand those problems, you've been there, and you have a solution for those problems. And now you can start talking about that solution, right? So a lot of this stuff, if I talk about news, if we talk about different farmers are saying, listen, we have no crops, our crops are dying, our cattle's going, like, this is an urgent situation. Well, that's just inherently interesting because we all eat food. We all have to pay attention to what's going on with our food supply. Okay, got it. I'm totally now the reader's thinking, great. Yeah, I mean, this is a bad situation. The next question in their head, well, what am I going to do? What do you think I should do about it? Right. And then you might can say like, well, I've been thinking about this and here's my thoughts on it. I think this is what's going to happen. I think this is what's happening. And, for me and my family, this is what I'm thinking I need to do. And in fact, I created this product that's actually going to teach you how to do this thing too, that I think you should do because I'm going to do it. And this is what's going to help us kind of overcome this situation. You want to check that out, go here. And that's where you can kind of have a conversation with your audience and connect their fears and their pains and their interests to your product because you have those same things. Does that make sense? Or you want any more clarity on that?
Well, I think I certainly think that's valuable, but I think within autonomy, just like what we've got with the Agora marketplace, we have the opportunity to like speak to our particular audience, and like you said, in a particular circumstance, I could say, hey, yeah, we're having a problem with food, but you know what? I know, Melissa Miles, or we've got that offer.
Right.
By kind of creating that circumstance where we start integrating the knowledge that we have amongst ourselves, and then being able to like push that out in a lot of different directions. To me, it feels like autonomy is this core group that has this ability to really kind of bring the level of excellence up because we're very scrutinizing people and discerning people. But then when it goes out into our specific audiences, those can be ways that, just by keeping our ears open and keeping that dialogue going, we can, bring people back and forth, in and out. And certainly as far as marketing autonomy and seeing like who are the people that we want to bring in to autonomy, if we have people that are, that are pursuing excellence in particular areas, and we see somebody out there on the opposite, on the outside that is doing something similar, bringing them into our group, it's like a no-brainer, and certainly then the areas that we feel like we're we're not addressing well, looking outside and saying, hey, come on in, man, that's what we need this, and we ain't got it over here, but we'd like you to invite you into this group that's, we got 9,000 people that would love to put their eyeballs on what you're doing.
Right. Yeah. So are you saying too, like there are people doing great, cool stuff outside of autonomy, and it'd be great to get those people into autonomy, right? Who are already being, productive people. They might already have businesses, and we want those people in autonomy too. Is that kind of what you're saying also?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just had the example the other day, media relations, or not media relations, but media production, the video production. Looking at people that are doing video production, it goes all over the place, and just seeing like excellent work and saying, hey, I see your excellent work. We're learning about, how to do it right. Come on over and show us, we sure love to have like an interview and talk to you and introduce the people that we're interested, that we're, that we've collected that are interested in this, to have a collab on, how it is that you're doing so well, or that particular technique that you're doing that really knocks it out of the park. We love to have more insight into that. And for the most part, those are kind of ways that, people don't, this isn't necessarily traditional marketing for this, but it is a way to really like bring in that kind of excellence, and that excellence also brings in attention.
Right. And so I think for those people who are already doing cool stuff outside of autonomy, they're not in this yet, but they're kind of on the same wavelength. Like you're saying, they match the type of personality and the type of people you want in autonomy, the type of people you're already getting along with. For them, we have to figure out, well, what is the value proposition for those people? What is the value proposition of autonomy for those people who are already successful, who are already doing cool stuff? How do we get them in here? I think the key selling point is what you're expressing, which is the community of autonomy. You're out there doing your thing, and it's great, and you're killing it. But we have people in autonomy that are also doing great things, and we've been able to elevate each other through this concord of coming together and assisting each other. That's something you might be missing if you felt like you've been on your own or doing a lot of like great stuff. You're trying to grow, and you need to bounce ideas off each other. You need to work with other productive people. You want to be around other successful, productive people, then you should come and join autonomy. So we still always have to figure out, well, what if they're outside of autonomy, what's the thing that's going to bring them in? What is the pain point that we can solve for them? Because a lot of autonomy obviously talks about, well, how to start creating your own offers and developing your skills. That's obviously the key part. That's the core of what the autonomy course is about. But for someone that already has some skills and is already has some of this knowledge, what's in it for them? And a large part of it is the community and working with other people so that they can elevate to that next level and trying to express that. So I think that's really good. I think that's a great point. It's something I have to think about too, because there's definitely going to be some of those people on autonomy who are already like, I'm autonomous. Like I've seen some of the ads autonomy puts out that attracts people, and it's like, yeah, I'm already doing something. I'm already somewhat successful, so I'm interested in being more successful. And we do have to put those messages out. I haven't been writing some of that for the emails, or like expressing that kind of idea of like, hey, if you're already doing something wonderful, like there's a lot, this whole community is filled with people who are super productive and like super interested in helping each other really raise the bar. And that is usually what what a lot of people are missing, solopreneurs, and for myself too. Like that's definitely what I've been missing, is more people that I can have these conversations with and bounce ideas off of. And so I think that would be how you approach, at least one way to approach some of those people.
Now my brain is wondering, like, what would be an awesome lead magnet for those people?
Yeah. Yeah, because like this, with the skills and everything, it's like, well, some of those people might feel like, well, I already have those skills. I already know how to read a book, and I already know how to.
Freedom success checklist.
Yes, but
our ethical marketing thing. I think that's
well,
a
ethical
big
marketing, I
part.
think that's interesting. Yeah, where some people are like, I'm really skilled in this area. I do good work. I don't know how to totally sell myself, or I feel icky about sales. I mean, there's so many people, especially in our community, people that care about freedom and stuff. Sales is an icky word. And advertising itself has a shady history. So I used to feel that way too about sales, and it took me a while to kind of get over that and realize that sales is a double-edged sword. I mean, there's ways to lie and manipulate, to persuade and or coerce people into doing things. But if you have something important to say, you need to sell. And like everything, whatever it is that you want from someone else, you're going to have to sell in some way. Everyone's always selling stuff. Like, selling is just natural. And it's also, I think it's part and parcel of, the non-aggression principle for libertarians, right? Is you have to be able to persuade and influence people peacefully. And that's where sales comes in. And so that is a good angle for some of those people that would be interested in that sort of thing. Ethical marketing.
JL, I saw a hand raised. Do you have a question or a comment?
Kara, this is awesome. Thank you so much for putting this together. I'm back and I'm really enjoying this. Patrick, your email is the reason that I'm here today. You hit me in the feels.
Come on.
You hit me in the feels, and I consider myself a stoic. So that's a huge thing. It was the right message at the right time. And again, getting the opportunity to integrate back into the community when I had taken some time off for family things. And sometimes it does feel like, to Josh's point earlier, a little bit overwhelming and intimidating, all these awesome things going on, and where do I want to jump in? And to be perfectly honest, I left in a very bad, very immature way. And I'd like to apologize to Michael and Kara and Agnieszka and Stephanie and there's a few other that are not on the call today, and I will address that privately. But you brought up some amazing ideas for email marketing. And one of them specifically was turning one-way communication into two-way communication. So you were saying that after the welcome email, at the bottom, sort of ask them questions, build a dialogue that could find more of the value-added content, or really what they're looking for, so that it can be more tailored. And if that's possible, is there a software program, or are you doing this by hand? Like a Salesforce customer relationship management software that can mine the gems of these people's needs and wants that we can match with what we have to offer?
Well, that's a great question. Before I answer, JL, could you tell me which email it was that you were talking about, you're referring to?
Yes. You are the reason the world is worse off. Or
okay, so
yes.
what's that one? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so that's so great to hear. Oh my gosh.
And for me, it wasn't antagonistic. For me, it was the stoic, kick in the butt reminder of, hey, time is short here. I don't know what you're doing. Really? So for me, it was, wow, I needed to hear this message right now and reintegrate myself back into this excellent community, because you don't need to be alone. And part of what, to Michael's point about saying, how do we attract people who are already doing awesome things and then bring them into our community, because we're doing awesome things also, and that how we can collaborate together, is to remind them that it is really the community. That's really what it is. It's like, there's human beings on the other end that also, to Josh's point about accountability, and in this particular group, there's an accountability spotlight, which is excellent, actually. Not if you don't want to be held accountable, but excellent if you do. And so that's part of why I joined, and I'm here, and I enjoy interacting with all you talented and lovely people. So yes, Thank you, Patrick. Thank you for
Love
your
it.
gifts and your talents. I appreciate it. And thank you, Kara, for putting this on. I will be hopefully bringing something next month to start with my lead magnet. I think I want to do something on labels demystified. I'm hearing in a community that I'm in, a lot of people are confused about how to read labels now. And I believe that in 2020, the FDA quietly amended our food regulations to be able to include things that aren't actually in the food or misrepresent the food entirely. So, and swap out random ingredients and not even have to tell you. So it's, you know, if you're not growing your own food and eating it out of your garden and you are eating food that does have a label, I would caution against that if you can, but let's be honest here, you know, I mean, there's got to be some clean, good stuff, but anyway, thank you. I just wanted to bring that up.
We should promote one ingredient foods. People are very confused when I say one ingredient foods, but
Yes.
you know, they're revolutionary, like a potato.
Yes.
Great.
I say that all the time. Agnieszka, I say, you know, it shouldn't have a label. And they're like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, well, it's an apple. It doesn't have a label. It's an apple. I mean, it does technically.
To me, that there's no such thing as one ingredient food because all labels require more than one ingredient. I'm like, think about what you just said. Like, maybe there are some one ingredient foods. And they were like, no. And I'm like, well, even in packaging, there's oatmeal and flour and sugar. Come on. One ingredient foods. Welcome back,
Jael.
Yeah,
thank you so much for speaking up. I'm so glad that you're back and really enticed about this lead magnet idea. So I'm really excited to hear more about that in next month or whenever. Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. It's excellent to be back. And again, Kara, thank you for doing this. This was great. And to have Patrick here today and to get all this in one day was an excellent gift. So happy Friday, everybody.
Yay. Thank you.
Right. So, I was going to say, Jael, if you don't follow the Food Babe, you should follow her because she does a lot of that stuff too, where she'll like go in grocery stores and be like, look at this thing. And these are the ingredients and this is what it's really in. And this is what's actually going on in here and don't eat it. I love her content.
She does excellent work. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm sure you're familiar. Okay, cool. So with the survey thing and talking and getting that two-way conversation, I like asking through email and asking them to reply directly through email because it's the easiest thing for them to do. They're right there. They're already reading the email. They can just hit reply and just send off a reply. So I like just doing it directly through email. You could have someone or yourself go through and mine those responses and extract them and put them into a document, a Salesforce or a HubSpot or whatever type of CRM thing if you wanted. If you needed to do that for your purposes. But I don't, I would just take it and collect it and then use that as like a good way for me to gauge who these people are and kind of what they're interested in, where they're at, and help us kind of steer content creation, you know, from there. So email just makes it easier, just reply directly. And you always want to reduce, I think, as much friction. That's not a hard and fast rule. Some people increase friction to better filter out people that they don't want.
When you say friction, what can you clarify?
Yeah, friction meaning steps to take to get to the thing. So if someone has to click a link, then go to a new web page, then enter their thing, then click enter to enter that response, that creates a little bit more friction. There's more steps. They're doing more, right? So there's more.
There's a drag on their action.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I mean. And so with a reply direct an email, super easy. You hit the reply, you type, and then you send it, right? And I even see email marketers do this with like, hey, are you I'm gonna do this workshop. Are you guys interested in being a part of it? Hit reply, let me know. And like, so I do see this is a pretty standard. I'm seeing now different marketers do it. And like I said, I've definitely done it to a degree and to a pretty good success where you get the response. And like Agnieszka brought up earlier, I don't know if you heard, but replies do help email deliverability. So the more you can kind of keep the conversation in email, it's easier. It's got some more benefits and, so there you go.
No, it's excellent. I love the concept of going one way to two way.
Yeah.
And then being able to mine that information. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. And like I say, like you could do it on the welcome email. I think that's a great starting place. You should, I think a question on the welcome email is such an easy thing to do. But you can do it in other ways. You can do it at some other times where you just have something, and like this is where email is so versatile, because like I say, of course I want to always be selling something and promoting something. It doesn't always have to be that way, because sometimes you can just have a message and then say, what do you guys think? What did you think about this message? Let me know. Or are you interested? I'm thinking about doing this thing. Would you want that? You let me know. And so you can do this at different intervals in your marketing.
What are your success rates with things like that, as opposed to straight up, in other words, eliciting a response right away, as opposed to click, click, click?
Well, clicks are a lot easier, and people are more interested.
Yeah, of course, it takes less time, less.
But also, putting your voice out there is hard for people. You know, not a lot of people want to express themselves that way. So if you're asking someone to speak their mind to you, that's going to be harder for them to then rather than just anonymously click a link and go like check out a product or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Except when they're angry and they want to give an FU, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. Exactly. That's no problem. It's good. Like we say, it's good for deliverability, and it means people felt something. Like you were saying, JL, you felt something. That's what we want. You want people hot and cold. You do not lukewarm is no good. You want to push people. And I mean, obviously you don't want to always be antagonistic. I was doing that purposefully because I wanted that push. And also because we're pushing because season 8's coming up. So this is a time also to be putting out those types of messages, right? It's not always a good time for that type of thing, but right now when we want to push people over the edge and get them thinking of, big picture, what do I need to do with my life, and connecting that big picture to like, who am I, where am I at right now in my life, and what could I be doing, and could I be doing more? I could be doing more. And I like this idea of making your small action seem bigger, have a much bigger purpose, a bigger meaning, right? We all want that. We all want meaning and purpose. We all want to feel like we're doing something bigger than ourselves. And so if we can connect that, and I believe that, I mean, I believe all of us, if we share our gifts, we express those things, we are going to be part of something bigger than ourselves by putting ourselves out there, creating things good for people. Like that's all true. So
from a marketing perspective, it did have an excellent sense of urgency without being like, and if you call now, we'll send you, not 1, but 2, but 3.
Right.
So it was excellent. Yes.
Yeah. And that's why I like, and that's why I say this whole idea of infotainment and good content and info plus promotion. It can help to do that without being too salesy. And this is also where good copywriting comes in. I mean, Carrie, you talk about this like conversion copywriting and stuff. Like, yeah, you don't need to be an infomercial salesperson. Who's the famous one who died? And I'm thinking of who would sell the OxyClean. Oh my God, it's gonna kill me. You don't need to be that bombastic. Unless I can't think of his name. Yeah, but yeah, you're right. So, and this is where the urgency, it's like, no, this is where it's not about the time is now to buy the product. It's the time is now for you, because you're not really selling, you're not selling autonomy or your product, you're selling change, you're selling the transformation, you're selling this new you, right? This is the whole idea of like, they're the hero of this journey. You're selling them the sword in the stone that's going to make them the king. Like, this is the thing. So
I love to, like Joanna Weave calls it, we're selling people a better version of themselves.
That's it. Yes, thank you. Exactly.
The opportunity of becoming.
Right.
Best version of you.
And becoming more. And we know this audience in particular for sure is going to be interested in that already. Thinking in that way, they might have already been exposed to those kind of even like new age ideas of your your higher self and like your full potential. Like that stuff is very much in our culture now. So we know where they're at, and our purpose, our goal, and my goal was to connect that idea to this product, and then the action of like joining and getting involved. Right? Yeah.
And with inviting responses back, I mean, I imagine there's only going to be so many people that are actually going to do it. So do you ever find yourself getting bogged down with responses and filtering through them?
I haven't, no. Where it's been too many, no, because that's a way lower conversion rate, people replying. But the people that do, like, they're gonna feel more connected now because they did reply. And so those people, I'm sure I might even be missing an opportunity by not like tagging those people, like, oh, this person replied to this email, and like creating a special email marketing a tag in your email software and say this person replied, because now you know that person was super engaged. They were so engaged, they did the thing that 99.9% of other people didn't do, which was reply. So those people might be closer to like becoming true fans and really and buyers, right? And so that is the beauty of it too, is when you create an opportunity for someone to connect with you, they're going to feel closer to you just by virtue of just making that connection, of responding. So now they could be more likely to buy from you because they feel closer to you. You made them feel closer. Yeah.
In the one-to-one future in marketing, it was a seminal book from way back in the day, but basically that was the concept, right? The idea was you want as much of your audience, you already have their attention. You want to continue to be able to transact with them and help guide them on a journey. You're together, you're building your brand, you're building a lifestyle, whatever it is that your product is that you're selling. And so that's why I'm kind of interested in this concept. It's the first time I've really ever heard of like turning email. I know that sounds ridiculous, of turning email into a two-way, communication, but for email marketing. But really, there's something there, and I'm wondering now if there also is some kind of software that could help automate that, and then tag those into a customer relationship management software like a Salesforce.com, so that you have a jacket, a dossier. I don't like those words. A field to say what their likes and interests are.
Yeah. I'm sure. I mean, I'm certain that most email software probably says like, if someone replies to the email, tag them with this or something like that. I mean, I'm not an email automation expert, and so that's like, these are things where even as I'm talking about it, it's like, oh, like I could be missing an opportunity here to improve my marketing efforts with automations and with using software that way. I don't always think about software in that way. So I'm glad you actually brought that up, because it is important to think about like, well, how can we better use these tools?
I'm sure in the beginning, my first initial foray will be so light that I will be able to do this by hand. And I look forward to getting people's actual responses. But I'm thinking in the future and growing and knowing that, because I've heard this from many people who have big podcasts and things like that, they just don't, they actually hire people. They can't do this. It's not an option. So how then would we, somebody exactly like what you do, Patrick, right? Like, how do we get more of and if this is a way to do it, I've never really heard of this concept again about asking questions in an email, believe it or not.
Yeah.
So thank you for bringing that up. It's something I'm going to look into as well.
You know what? You reminded me to talk about something really fast. And this is that in email marketing, you're building relationships constantly. You're really in the relationship building game. That's why you want to have a particular person who's sending the emails with a personality, with a unique worldview, with a perspective, who has opinions, right? I'm saying generally, but like if you're the one marketing, you want to have all those things because you want to be a real person. Why do you want to be a real person? Because you're talking to real people, and you want to connect with real people. So this is about building relationships. And over time, those relationships grow because people get to know you. They get to know your personality. If you want to tell stories about your day, and this is a whole other a side section of like email strategy and high level stuff. Like, you want to have characters in your life that you talk about regularly. You're one of those characters, and you could have a wife, kids, other things that make up who you are, make up your life, that you might talk about and use as fodder for emails to tell salesy type stories that help connect to your products and whatever. all this stuff, it's always about building relationships. Just like if you're talking to someone on the phone, a friend, you're talking about your life, you're talking about what you care about, you're talking about your interests. They might agree or disagree, but at least now they know who you are, and they're going to feel closer to you if they agree. And of course, some people who disagree will want to stick around because they want to keep because people like disagreeing with other people. We get addicted, a lot of people are addicted to that kind of negativity and wanting to disagree. But it is all about relationships, and that is the beauty of emailing regularly.
Oh, I love that. I love that because it does, so much of email marketing, and especially, with automations and automated campaigns and stuff, sometimes it can feel impersonal. And so I really love, and this is so much of what we talk about in here is about building trust and, trust-based marketing. And so I just see this as like just a wonderful way to build those relationships with your prospects.
Yeah, I agree. That's exactly right. And that's why when you show up regularly, people trust you because they trust that you're reliable enough to send an email every day or every week on those certain days. Now they trust you because you have been reliable. You've been there. You've shown up with a message. I see email marketers who say like, I almost didn't send this, or I have these things going on, but I wanted to reach out and let you know. And there's a whole, and that's where just copywriting tactics come into play, of just how to talk about yourself and the way the kind of language you use. You don't have to be, email is so great. It's so liberating because you don't have to be too stuffy and like too professional. You don't have to be people, and you don't want to be, because it is a conversation. You want to talk conversationally. So it's that's why I think regular people, that's why you don't have to be a great, especially with email marketing, you don't have to be a great writer or a great copywriter to do good email marketing, right, Kara?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, sometimes, not all the time, sometimes it can almost hinder, coming with those that come in, especially with like a lot of academic background and that kind of writing, and they pride themselves on being really wonderful writers, almost have to unlearn some of that stuff specific for copywriting. Like I end up, it's like I have the grammar tools, I end up turning them off half the time especially with things like emails, when it's meant to be conversational and how you're talking to a friend. And you can kind of take you can use poor grammar, you can use, these kinds of things.
Yep. You sometimes you don't even need punctuation, and some like you could just like there, yeah.
I was just going to throw in here. I just recently attended a kind of online conference with the Web 3.0 and NFTs and what they call them, like community coins. But what I heard out of that sounded very similar to what you were saying earlier about building relationships. And one of the things that they pointed out, and this was kind of with this idea of these NFTs, is that like the idea of like the super fan, the people that are responding, the people that want to be engaged, building an organization with those kind of people. What they were saying is like with like as little as 100 people, you could essentially create a environment in which it just incredibly does more business. And then you're not talking to a huge audience, but a much smaller, more the more engaged, more trustworthy audience. And I do feel like we've got that opportunity to, especially the way that we're interacting and the way that autonomy is built, where we're constantly interviewing and talking to each other. That does give us that opportunity to have a much better relationship. And again, I think, if you look at like James Corbett and Brock West, that relationship has done amazing things. It's just two people, but that's kind of what we're all capable of doing if we kind of get that opportunity to gel with each other and get to know what each other does well and what each other needs. I think that's that opportunity. I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Yeah, you're right. That is the beauty of community. That's the value of it. So and from a business perspective, that's why it's super valuable to have a community for your customers and for your people, especially like if, yeah, they're buying some NFT project or they're an information product that's about NFT investing or development or whatever. It's nice to just have a little, as an add-on, here's a community of people who are also interested in the same thing, who are involved in the same thing. I'm seeing that more and more, that more businesses are realizing that people want to connect. And of course, the rise of social media has helped this. We've always been this way, human beings, and now the internet has facilitated a much, there's newer tools that have made it a lot easier, like this, what we're doing right now. This tool has made it a lot easier to connect with people. So yeah, you're right. It's super important. And this is where it's like marketing or, email marketing, that sphere, like that only goes so far, obviously, of connecting. That has a specific role to play within the world of business and relationships. The deeper and deeper levels is this, getting people on this level where it's essentially, it's almost one, like you're right there with the other person, even if you're doing it this way, right, digitally. And yeah, that's where you can build those really diehard communities that can make or just diehard or great relationships, like you're saying with Brock and James, that can like make great things. Yep. And that's a great selling point for autonomy.
I'm wondering, Patrick, now I'm curious about if you do this for, I don't know how many different clients that you do this for, but I imagine you've built some processes. I'm curious a little bit about what your process is when you're planning and up to sitting down to write an email.
Yes. I'm very lucky that I don't have too many other clients, and that's actually good for me. I really cannot I have only so much bandwidth. I really cannot handle too many. So it is nice that I feel pretty good. I could probably, I might, whatever. And yes, it's nice to have a few. So with processes, yes, I will. So I have like a Feedly account, where I have news loaded up in there. I'm always and I just pay attention to news in general. So that's important to me. It's important just to stay up on that, because that is usually a place I go to first for ideas, because it's so easy. It's the easiest thing to just to talk about what's going on in the news and to connect that to a bigger idea or to a feature or benefit of a product that I want to talk about or that I'm selling. So paying attention to news, there are specific techniques I use. Like, for example, when first writing an email, I know, like I've already said, curiosity is key. So I'm always thinking, what's the most interesting or exciting part of this message that I'm going to put down in this email? What's going to grab the most attention? What's going to stand out in the inbox, like yesterday's email? So those are questions I have to constantly ask, and those are things I'm just constantly keeping top of mind. Then when each part of an email has a job, the subject line gets the email opened, but it also tells you a little bit about what might be inside. And depending on the email subject line, you kind of want to pay off the email subject. Like yesterday's email, when it's like you're the reason the world is worse off. I forgot how exactly I phrased it. That's a hardcore message, and so I want to make sure I very, very quickly get to a turning point where you understand what I meant, and I'm not just trying to like hurt your feelings, right? So you have to like get there quickly, but you can have just a slight buildup. One of the keys with email is those first couple lines. Think about when you're looking at something to read, especially online, like when it's just walls of text, it looks very unappealing to read. You don't even want to dive into it. It looks like too much. So there's a concept of the slippery slope. Joseph Sugarman, I think, invented this. A lot of marketers talk about it, but the idea is that sentences, especially the beginning sentences, should be short, very pithy, and should quickly lead to the next thing. So that sentence opens up, and like people are going to want to jump right to the next one and the next one. It should really carry you along like a slide. So it's a slippery slide that you kind of just slide right down. And then later on with email too, like I like making sure I break up I like a pattern in the email that is where it's shorter lines, thicker paragraphs, shorter, thicker, like having difference. Because if it's all just one line, or if it's all blocks of text, that creates a monotony, and it's not only like boring, could be harder to read, and some people might just want to skip it now. They don't want to read. So these are kind of, I don't know if this counts as process yet, but these are principles that I have as part of my writing process that I try to always keep in mind. Curiosity right away with the headline, with the subject line that leads into the opening few sentences of the email, and I try to keep the first 2 or 3 sentences pretty short and punchy, so that it just kind of gets into it. Not always, that's not always the case. It's not always possible, or I don't always want to do that, and sometimes I want to do something different. But that's a good rule of thumb, just to keep things rolling and to keep them interested in wanting to read the next sentence. The way with other things, my other process, I would say, I guess, when planning emails and thinking about emails, this is when you have to think about strategy and think about, well, what we talked about earlier, what is the audience interested in? What are they dealing with? What is this thing that I'm selling? What do they need to know about it? And what are they going to be interested in? So I don't go right away telling them, well, this, autonomy is gonna teach you about the truth about the school system and how to develop your skills and manage your time and be a productive person. Instead of just saying all that, we can start with the secret history of school and you didn't know. Okay, well, now I'm interested in that thing. There's a secret history of schooling, or what your school teachers never told. There's something curious there. I want to know about that thing. Then we can show. And this is where you can bring them into that world of thinking differently. And I try to always, the first half of an email is usually like framing an idea, framing a subject, getting you to think about this subject from a unique way. Sometimes that happens really fast. Sometimes it takes a little bit more to frame out an idea. And then that's when, I start, and then we can start explaining, then connecting that to the product, and then trying to transition from there. I'm sure there's other things about this process that I'm not thinking of, but those are, a bunch of just principles that I try to lead with. Actually, going back to, with planning, thinking through, it is nice to think through, well, what have they heard before? What have I already said? What can I say differently, or how do I say the same thing but in a different way where they can listen? Or is there something else I haven't talked about that they need to hear? Asking yourself these questions, thinking through all the different aspects of your product or service, and then thinking, all right, well, each email really should focus on one big idea too. So this is Carrie, I'm sure and it's the rule of one. You want one thing that you're really focused on. So pick one. We don't have to talk about every feature, every benefit of the product in every email. Pick one thing, really hyper focus on that, make something interesting that surrounds that thing, and that gets people involved, and then go from there. So yeah, I'm sure there's more, and I'll say this too with process. I'm also at some point I got to a point where I'm not paying attention totally to I don't have like a written out, fully fleshed out process too of how to do this, because principles, it's more important to keep principles in mind than any one single tactic. So having these principles of curiosity, of entering the conversation in their head, paying attention to what's relevant, knowing what your audience has already gone through, or what they're really interested in, what's going to capture their attention. If they're more interested in what the Davos elite are doing, then you can use that, and you can talk about a little talk from Davos, and then use that to transition into a solution that you want to talk about that's related to that they're interested in. But if they're more interested in what's going on at the pump in their local, at the in their local town or something, or they're more interested in, some simpler thing, you want to talk about what they're going to be interested in, but you also want to vary that up. You want to talk about different things. And, so there, principles, those are the principles I try to approach it with, and that kind of guides the process. But there are specific tactics of how you structure the email, how you write it, should never be more than like 3 sentences per paragraph, and that sort of thing.
Love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love the principles and keeping that in mind. Yeah.
There are, I mean, and there's a lot of techniques for how to like transition from a story to your product. That really kind of comes from with practice. But like if you're telling a story, I mean, even with the email yesterday that ruffled some feathers, it's I transition by like, here's the big idea. The world is in a bad place and it's your fault. That's the big idea. That's one primary idea. Well, what am I really saying? Oh, well, what I'm really saying is it's worse off because of you, because you're not fully expressing your full self. Now the idea has moved into the next phase, which is, oh, I could be a better human. I could be a better person. I could be more productive. I could be doing more to help my fellow man. That idea now blossoms further into, well, how do I do that? Well, you have to start developing your skills. You have to make who you are into services that serve other people. Okay, now we're getting a fuller picture, and now you transition now from there to do that. Like, you're going to need instruction and guidance and a community that can help you do that. That's what Autonomy offers. That's what you can use Autonomy to do that thing. And so that was like, it all just blossomed from that one idea, and you build on top of it into, something bigger. And then you show that your product is at the core. Your product is the next step for them, right from there.
Beautiful. Well, hey, as we're in our last 10 minutes, more questions or comments for Patrick?
I had to turn off my video because my internet was failing, but I like Patrick. You're right.
Hey, all right.
I knew you would.
That's what I'm here. I just wanted to make some new friends. I need them. That's why I got back involved in Autonomy. I mean, I like when I'm writing some of these emails, I'm writing them to myself too. Like, that's what I'm talking about. When you can approach your marketing from a personal perspective and talk to your audience as one of them, that's real for me, because like Autonomy was something I wanted to really be involved in, and I just didn't fully commit, and I was afraid of fully committing, and then like family stuff, and I had a baby, like all these things, and it's a million excuses, right? And it's just one of those things. But I realized how important Autonomy is, and so that's when I can say how important it is to this email audience, because I really believe that. I see that, and I'm jealous already. Like, you guys have, there's a lot of groups in here that are already very strong. That's a beautiful thing, and it's so needed. And with the way the world is right now, it's so important to have community and to be part of communities online and offline. And so a lot of this stuff, like, this is where your marketing can come from. You pull out from your own passion and your own well of emotions to really make your marketing even better. That's what I'm trying to do, because it's real for me. Yeah, with Autonomy.
I think we should have a copywriting clinic retreat in a remote Mexican village.
That sounds nice.
There's like one ingredient foods all over the place, and we have some accommodations that can be set up for everybody, and you can come with the baby, Patrick. There's already a baby here next door, so they can be buddies.
Perfect. Yes.
The baby next door is only like 4 days old, but
oh my goodness,
he'll grow up.
So fresh baby.
But yeah, that's what I think.
That's a good idea.
Well, once again, I just have to say, man, copywriting clinics are knocking it out of the park. I mean, as far as an example of how Autonomy works to do its ultimate best, and the copywriting clinic is the shit.
Nice.
Put that testimonial on
Yes.
online.
I mean, all the other groups that are in here. I mean, this is the example, and certainly you guys and Kara and Agnieszka, you know, that kind of combination, the way they are, it just, they've got that personality that like you were talking about, Patrick, that like it hooks people, and then you're in, you know.
Yeah.
And it's great.
We work right through it.
Yeah.
All puns intended.
Yeah, and I guess I can jump in next. You know, and I was particularly inspired by the way that you phrased how you go about the process of writing an email is, you know, very much so, what is the thing I'm trying to express? And just get very neat with doing just that, you know, cutting out all the fluff. You know, and it's inspiring to see that I'm learning kind of the basics of this general idea with the fantasy I've been writing. It's what do you need to express in this scene, and do nothing else.
Yeah. So you write fiction, Cody?
Yeah, I've started writing a fantasy novel because got obsessed with it, and
Yeah.
you know, it's my idea to get into copywriting at some point, because to a degree, writing is writing. I just got to learn the different techniques that are specifically applicable to copywriting, because once I have the clickety click, throw out a rough draft, start polishing it.
Yep. Well, I mean, you're right. Like, what do you want to, where's the action, right? You start in the middle of the story. You get right into it, right? We want, what do readers want to read? Well, they want to read the most interesting thing about the story. You know, you don't want to drone on, and you don't want to go too far into detail of a thing that no one cares about, right? We want to know what's going on. Who are these characters? What just happened to them? What is going to happen to them? And like, that's it. A lot of principles of good fiction writing do apply to copywriting.
Absolutely. In fact, Cody, you know, not a lot of people here know this about me. I used to write vampire novels.
Ah.
I did. I almost failed out of high school because I would skip class and go hide in the girls' bathroom and write.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, that's amazing.
And Cody, you know what? It's so funny you talking about writing. I just picked up video editing like this last couple months or months ago. So, you know, I've been editing videos now myself.
Nice.
Yeah, I got into video editing as well, because stories.
Wow.
People like stories. People like stories. Tell stories.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
That's why I say I have only one skill, is creativity.
I like that. Yeah, because that's the skill. Like, that's the skill of all skills. Like, you go anywhere, everything.
Right.
I love it.
Because I don't really know. I like cook and paint and write and make videos, and I think it's all the same stuff, right? All the same impression.
Yep.
Fine.
I wanted to say, because vampire novels and fiction, now it's on my mind. I just lent out a book. It's a vampire. It is a vampire novel. It's an interesting one. It's called Black Ambrosia. Anyone? Okay. It's from the 80s, and it's about this girl and who's traumatized, and the whole story is told from her perspective, and you don't really. It's interesting because you don't know, is she actually turning into a vampire? Is this all in her mind from the things that she's going through? What's actually happening? How she's interacting with other people? And it's told in the first person. So can you trust her? So I'll throw that out there because it's just been on my mind. I just lent it out to a friend. I haven't read a lot of vampire novels, but I have read that one, and Salem's Lot by Stephen King.
Well, it was funny timing, because when I was like, I had 3 completed novels by the time I graduated high school, and right around the same time Twilight came out and blew up all over the place. And I boycotted Twilight for years and years. No, you ruined my genre.
Well, so when are we gonna read Kara Shepard-Poat's
oh my gosh,
new vampire novels? What's the deal?
Oh, I don't know about that. I
Yeah,
don't
the
know about that.
copywriter, we will have a show where we all share our poetry and our excerpts from our books.
Yeah.
Hey, I've been taking over the writing room with posting some writing, so maybe join me.
There you go.
Hey, maybe,
Yeah.
maybe.
No, we should have the poetry thing once a week again, like where we do our poetry, not other people's poetry, because I lost interest when it was other people's poetry, honestly.
Hmm.
I was all into it when it was autonomy poetry, especially Kara. Kara's awesome.
No, gosh.
Yeah, I used to think that poetry was a little silly, honestly, you know, but then I actually wrote my first actual poem for a school project and got super into it and actually made something beautiful with it. And
Yeah.
it's cool. It's cool what you can do with it. It's an art form.
Yeah. Everything changes when you do it yourself. When you try it yourself,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Like not that
Homework is
long
not-
ago, I reread my poem and freaking brought me to tears, seeing simultaneously how naive I was then, but also how right I was.
Yeah.
That.
Beautiful. Cody,
Love
it's so
it.
good to see you guys. Thank you so much for this. And Kara and everybody, thank you so much for this. This
Thank
was
you. And-
beautiful.
Blowing
And
kisses. My video is off, but I'm blowing kisses.
yes, me too.
And Patrick, thank you so much for coming and sharing so much. And you know what? You communicate and articulate yourself so well and so clearly. This was
you.
like such a real treat. I'm really excited to post this out there and want everybody to watch the replay of this. And I
Yeah.
really hope that you'll join us in future clinics and you can help us
will.
with critiquing work and just helping
Yes.
other writers get better.
I definitely will. This has been absolutely fantastic. And I have to thank you, Kara, and Agnieszka and everybody here, because I wouldn't have gotten the chance to speak about email marketing this way. And I don't always do it. And, you know, I deal with my own imposter syndrome like everyone else. And so it's nice to have these experiences to kind of get out of my own shell in my head and express what I like and do it in a way that I'm trying to help people, because then I really feel like I'm doing something good, and it kind of helps clarify my thinking. So I have really appreciated all of this, and this has really been the first time I've been able to just talk about this kind of subject in an extended way with a great interviewer and other great questions. And so this has been a real treat for me as well. So I do look forward to the next one.
You're awesome.
Fantastic.
Yes.
You're all lovely. I love these clinics and getting together with you guys. And yeah, see you next month. If I don't talk to you before, I'm sure I'll talk to most of you before then. All right.
All right.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.
Thanks for teaching,
guys.
Patrick.
Oh, absolutely. No problem. And my pleasure.
Yeah, I had fun listening in.
Awesome.